is a term used by a group of young undergraduates. My guest is one. His journey as a PK, pastor kid, is moving and enlightening. A must watch.
Welcome, Josh Babatunde.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you.
You're the first of four?
Yes, I am.
Your parents?
Yes, I am.
And obviously the oldest.
Yes.
So do you have all that firstborn responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. it comes with the territory.
It comes with it.
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
absolutely.
you grew up in London, is that correct?
Yes, I did. I did. I grew up in South London, so I lived in Camberwell, lived in Croydon for some parts, and then moved to Kent recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Between the age of 12, 13, you went to Nigeria to visit your...
Yes, I did. Well, visitation is what they call it. So I went to go spend a bit of time with my grandparents, but I also moved there for education. So I schooled in boarding school.
What was that like? What was the experience?
Very unique experience. A lot of things happened, which I won't delve into, but overall, it was a very, very good experience. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, in terms of obviously your grandparents and meeting your family back home, is that correct?
Yes. So it was a good time to just actually get to know relatives outside the country who I hadn't really been able to develop a relationship with.
Oh, excellent.
So it was good.
Okay. Have you always been, are you a churchgoer? Have you always been in church? And what's your background in terms of?
As far as a churchgoer, I do attend church and I was born into it. So I mean, I would say that yes, I've been going all my life practically, my dad's a pastor of a church.
So you're a PK then?
Yes, that makes me a PK. That's what they call us.
PK.
So yeah, that has been lingering over my head for many years, probably for the rest of my life. But yeah, so I grew up in church. My dad pastored a church alongside with my mum, and I was there for many years.
And do you play instruments or whatever? Because it normally comes with the territory.
They normally get you to be an usher or record or learn an instrument. I think my parents took the chance of getting me to learn piano at 5.
Oh.
So
and you've been playing since then?
Yeah, so this year would mark 20 years that I've been playing piano.
Oh wow, we need to get you on the show to come on.
No pressure. So yeah, I mean when I was 6, 7, I couldn't even reach the keyboard. I had to stand on like a chair just to like reach it because I was so small. I can't see the congregation. So
what do you mean you were so small? See how tall you are now?
Yeah, tall now, but I was 6 years old then. So yeah, different time.
How tall are you actually? I
think my dad are like 6'3". My dad's 6'3". I'm at 6'2.5" or 6'2". Yeah, I say 6'2". About that. Yeah. Okay. So we're getting there.
Oh, you're getting there.
Yeah.
Still growing. Okay. Something quite major happened because you grew up with your parents. Is it up until what age? So
I was living with my parents right from birth until I was about 16.
Okay.
Then my parents split in 2010. So that kind of really just shook up my whole life really and the whole family. So that took place. Yeah. And
what was that like for you in terms of if it meant they were separated? Who were you with? Because I know that at times this was with you and your siblings, because at times all siblings go with someone, and what was the and where were you in terms of all that when all that was happening?
So I mean, firstly, when they split, there was never really a plan for who was going with who. Okay. It was just more of... So
whether there had been issues which you would have kind of like been aware of, I don't know.
Yeah, so prior to the split, we'd kind of, as children, like you pick up on that when things are not going right at home, but parents have a very good way of hiding things, so they still present themselves as one. But, we'd kind of hear conversations that we'd never heard before, so it kind of made us wonder, okay, what's going on here? Because sometimes you hear like, how can you put this in the fridge? But we're hearing some deep stuff, and that's when we began to realize that, okay, something's really wrong here. And so naturally.
Well, then you always still hope that things will go on, isn't it? Things
You kind of just eliminate it from your mind, or you throw it to the back of your head. Oh no, they can't split. Like, let's let them sleep it over. Like, they'll be fine in the morning.
Which they normally do, like parents. And
Exactly. But this was quite different. So it wasn't a sleepover thing. It was building and constant.
Building up.
Yeah.
So going back to my initial question.
Yeah.
So, what was like you said, you were saying, sorry, that it wasn't like anything had been planned in terms of where who would go and everything.
Yeah. So I mean, so my mum decided to make the move. She moved out, and there was like a whole another background story to that. But my mum moved to another part of London, and at the time I just finished GCSEs, and my dad wasn't around, as in the country. He was very much still present in our lives, but wasn't around at that point. So legally, we couldn't actually stay in the house.
Right,
so we had to all go. We moved, and my sister stayed schooling in the area where my dad was living. So she moved back at some point, whilst me and my brother stayed with my mum.
Okay, you were sharing with me that because of all that was happening, your younger brother had to be, moved three times within a short period. Yeah. And why I'm trying to emphasize this, because at times, we don't necessarily fully understand the impact of what separation does in the life of the children, you know. Yeah. The adults can guess up. I'm not saying it's any easier for them, but again, we've got children that go through their own, have to deal with what's happening also.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I once heard a saying that says, when two elephants fight, it's the grass, that suffers. And I kind of never really understood what that meant until we find ourselves in a predicament where our parents, who are not just biological, but also our spiritual parents are not seeing eye to eye. And as I was saying to you earlier, no one trains you in life for how do you, as children 16 and below, respond to still having to honor your father and mother biologically, but then sort of have to, look to them for spiritual guidance even though they're going through their own problems. And so it was a very, very confusing time for us as children, because we run to them when we have spiritual problems, but we didn't know what to even do at that point.
Because they were pastors, and obviously we've then got the side of the impacts that would then have on the church as a whole. Because obviously, the pastors that lead, we know what it is when things like happen in the congregation, and then we've still got you. How was that for you guys?
I mean, so when it happened, so when I say when it happened, so when the split took place and my mum moved, she left, my dad's church, it was, everything kind of just happened very fast. So one by one, we just saw members start to leave, and we weren't so sure. We had an idea that, this must be the root cause, but we weren't actually sure why people were making the moves. And as a result of that, it had a very negative effect on, at least I'll speak for myself, maybe not my siblings, but it had a negative effect on the way I began to view church people in general, because I had felt like, my parents have done so much for people, and to kind of see people walk away from them because things have gone wrong with themselves made me start to question, was this really your pastor that you say you love? And you hear things that are being said about your parents by members that supposedly raised you and you look up to, and so it makes you feel very bad that, like, I know this is your pastor, but this is my mum and dad that you are speaking about in passing, and you're saying things that aren't quite nice. So it made me kind of, it made me not really like, and this probably sounds wrong, but I didn't like them for that, to be honest. Like, I started developing a dislike towards church people for that.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're your parents, and irrespective of whatever is happening to them, you still love them, and you do not want, we have that very protective things, that feeling of our parents. And what you were just saying about the church, I was just thinking of that passage that says, strike the shepherd,
the sheep scatters,
and the sheep you scatters, and you actually saw it in its full form and in its reality. Was there, so what then did this do to you in terms of, because I know, was it anger? What would it have brought up for you? Because you're only 16, you've just finished, your GCSE, you know,
Yeah.
ideally you should be looking forward to, okay, so what's next?
Yeah,
And you,
yeah.
you know, having fun, and you're
Yeah.
having to deal with this. You've
Yeah.
got siblings also,
Yeah.
that you're having to sort of like look after.
Yeah. So I think for me, this began to really change my outlook on myself first. So I began to ask myself, was there something I didn't do as a child that I should have done? So I began to start reflecting and almost like going through my mental archives and thinking, okay, so maybe there was a time where mum and dad were arguing that I could have interjected and sort of stopped it right there and then.
More.
Yeah, so I kind of started, you know, it's almost like, you know, self-blame.
Yes.
I kind of started to blame myself that, oh, as a firstborn, you should have known better, even though it wasn't my responsibility. But that's just how I looked at it. And obviously, I then felt like, right, okay, since I've messed up this opportunity, I need to, you know, amend it by you know, looking after my siblings and just ensuring that I can now also try and be a sort of a parent figure for them as well.
It's like growing up overnight, isn't it?
Literally, that's what it is. Yeah.
Can I just ask, what did you think of God at this time?
I think at that time I began to just question who, not just who God was, but who God was to me at that time. I really, really felt like, how could a God who is all loving, who, you know, is omnipresent, who is all this amazing things, you know, and has my supposed future in his palms, see that this is where, you know,
thoughts for me are
thoughts are supposed to be good, you know, and not of evil, and sees my life turning in this direction, and not just mine, my family's life turning in this direction. We've gone from such a happy family to being so divided, and how could you still, you know, have good thoughts towards, you know, me in all of this? And so I just rejected the notion of God really, really, truly, deeply caring for me. So I didn't think God cared. Yeah.
We're going to go on a break. But before we go on a break, I remember you saying that aside to all that, there was also a split in the family, isn't it? Because your siblings were living elsewhere.
Yeah.
With one of your parents, and again, just emphasizing on what you said about a happy family that was together. So that was all of that to contend with.
Yeah.
We're going to go on a break, and we're going to come back to your story and see how things have turned around, God in his faithfulness.
Yeah.
Please stay tuned. I'm sure you want to hear more about Josh's story and how things have turned out for him and his family.